Welcome to the Grow Your Business Cleveland video series. Co-producing and appearing in the series, the talented GYB CLE interns. Supporting sponsors include NOAC, a regional partnership of Chambers of Commerce. New Image Media, Northeast Ohio's most recognized name in video for business.
In this episode, Harriet Russell, cultural facilitator, author, and language specialist, shares 3 essential tips that managers and multicultural teams should know. After the tip, we go backstage where Harriet shares a nonverbal story, her cultural fascination, how she traveled the world on a $1-a-day budget, and more.
My name's Harriet Russell. I'm the Director of Business Ease overseas. Today I'm going to share with you 3 essential tips that managers and multicultural teams should know. There are so many tips I could share with you, but let's start with 3 today. My first tip is know the culture's values. Is the culture you're working with or the cultures that you are working with more collective, where the group is more important than the individual? Is the culture one where the hierarchy is highly respected? Or is it more egalitarian, where all the team members have the same level of decision-making and voice? Is it more important the relationship between the people, or is it more important to get things done? How are you going to find this out? One thing you can do right in your local community is to visit a cultural center of that country. Another thing you can do is find someone from that culture that lives in your neighborhood and strike up a conversation. Everyone wants to share about their culture. You can also, of course, go to your library and use resources that are published. I caution you against Googling because you never know what you're going to find out there. Use valued and trusted resources for your research. My second tip is know how they communicate in that culture. Is it an informal or a formal culture? Are rituals of introducing oneself with a business card or a handshake important? How do people perceive nonverbal communication like touch and eye contact? This varies between different cultures. Cultures differ in how people accept and give feedback. Is criticism to be done in front of the group or not at all? How about praise? In some cultures, praise is not considered positive because it singles a person out from the collective team and unit, and their identity is more with the team rather than themselves. So be observant and understand how people relate to what you say, how you say it, and also know that silence sometimes is golden. My third tip is know yourself. Respect and trust and know yourself means that you are directly honest with how you know that you are inside yourself. When you are able to understand what are your trigger points, what's your personality like, are you patient or not patient, then you're able to recognize that in the face of a group of people. Accepting, respecting, and knowing yourself comes first. Then seeing how you see others through an open channel of honesty allows you to relax, let go, and be more present in the moment as you communicate with your team across cultures.
Up next, we get to know Harriet. From American author and physicist Leonard Mlodinow, nonverbal communication forms a social language that is in many ways richer and more fundamental than our words.
I'd like to give you an example of a nonverbal communication so that you can see how powerful it is. And then I'm going to ask Juliana if she understood me. Let me give you a little context for my story. I was in Afghanistan and I was staying above a tea house in a lodging there. My companion went out to get something to eat, and I noticed there was a window in the room, so I looked out the window, and right across from my building was another building with a window and a woman standing in her window. So we started to communicate, non-verbally, of course. This is what the lady said. And I said, what do you think that meant?
You both wanted to invite the other over for
tea or something to drink?
That's great. So when you get about 80% or even 60% of a nonverbal communication, you really have the essence of the communication. So you did really well, Juliana. You got the idea that sipping tea and making an invitation was what was happening in that context, and why it couldn't happen isn't really important. The important thing is that we had a nonverbal communication, and 40 years later, I still remember that lady in Afghanistan speaking to me and me speaking to her from the heart by just using nonverbal expressions.
Written by William Shakespeare in the play Hamlet, this above all, to thine own self be true.
Sometimes life takes twists and turns. From Wall Street to now as an independent business owner, I've had many journeys. But when I look from now back to who I was as a child, I can see how I've always lived my authentic self. When I was a little child, about 7 years old, my father took me to Pelee Island. When I got to Pelee Island, I bowed down and kissed the ground because he told me it was another country called Canada. I also was reading storybooks that had words that were from foreign languages. I read little books that said, "This is a casa." Casa means home in Spanish. This is a futon. Futon means bed in Japanese. So when I look back, I think, what were the signals that showed me where I was going? And now I can see them more clearly. I love what I do, and I love to learn more.
According to LiveScience.com, Marco Polo was one of the first Europeans to travel to Asia during the Middle Ages. He traveled farther than any of his predecessors during his 24-year journey along the Silk Road.
Here's a little-known fact about me and my adventuresome side. In 1975, with a college degree in hand and a couple years of living in Spain, I traveled from Spain to Nepal overland on a $1 a day budget for 6 months on Marco Polo's Silk Route. I ended up in Japan with $20 in my pocket, stayed 5 years, and got my master's degree as the first non-Japanese to ever get their master's in linguistics from Jochi Daigaku, the Japanese campus of Sophia University. While I was having an adventure, I was learning about cross-cultural experiences. When I thought about my resume and my practical American mind, I thought, how can I validate these adventures that I'm having? So I got my next degree. That's my story. I hope it helps you find your own journey, both inside and out.
So how did Harriet score as a Grow Your Business Cleveland expert? We gave a thumbs up for multicultural team tips, telling a nonverbal story, finding authenticity, and being a master of linguistics.
Special thanks goes to our Grow Your Business Cleveland contributing experts for supporting our mission of growing business and kickstarting careers in Northeast Ohio. So don't miss a video or an opportunity to be part of the show. Subscribe at gybcle.com and follow us on our social media channels. And remember, if you like it, share it.